Welcome back. Looking at a 2000 Buick Park Avenue. Has a pretty bad vibration going down the road. Comes and goes, and especially when you turn to the right and it's loading the left wheel. I've already replaced the passenger side CV axle on this, which got rid of a lot of vibration, but there's still a fair amount of it from the driver's side, so we're going to pull that axle and replace that axle as well. Obviously you have to remove the wheels, 19mm for the lug nuts, 34mm you're going to have to remove the spindle nut. If you don't have air tools, break this loose before you pick the wheel up off the ground, and then finish it when you get up there. I'm just going to take it off with a gun. .34mm spindle nut. I'm going to make sure this is loose. In this case it is, because I just did the hubs on this not long ago. So if it's not, you may have to put that spindle nut back on there, hit it with a hammer, or put an air hammer in here, drive it out, or you might have to press that out. These splines, if they're corroded, they'll hang up in that hub sometimes. We're going to remove the caliper and a caliper mounting bracket, 15mm. Two bolts in the back, one at the top, one at the bottom. See if I can get my bigger gun in here. If I can. It's tight. But it did get in there. So, mounting bolt, one at the bottom here. Now you can't see, there's not much to see actually. See if we can get that. Two mounting bolts. We'll take the rotor of the caliper off of there. Hang it up. Just use a bungee cord or a piece of wire. Just hang it up on the coil spring. Pull it off the rotor here. Hang it up. Just get it out of the way. Brakes and rotors on this are pretty new. I did them about a month ago as well. Just don't want that hanging on that flexible line. Just take the rotor off, put it out of the way. So you're gonna have to undo the tie rod end on this. The strut mount, where it mounts to the strut, and we'll scribe along the front of this bracket where it mounts to the steering knuckle. Before we take this off, we're going to take a little pick or a small screwdriver, flat blade screwdriver, and scribe along this on both sides. So we can, when we put this back on, we get it close to where it was. You really need to get alignment done when this is done. You're also going to have to undo the end link for the sway bar to get enough play to get this axle out of here. So that's what we're going to do. Let me get this a little higher if I can. That's a little better. We scribe that before I start tearing it apart. Just a little 90-degree pick here. Scribe the front of this. Just want to get a mark on it. Both sides. This side as well. Get this out of the way. All that allows us to do is to get it close when we put it back together so the alignment's not really far off. So it's drivable and reasonable. Okay. I'm going to undo this cotter pin down here and take it out here. I'm not going to reuse this cotter pin, so cut it off and pull it out easier. Get a hold of it here. Grab that. Get that out of there. I believe this is 18 millimeter. Undo that tie rod end. We're just going to stick that back on there in case we have to tap up on it. Put the castle nut back on it even with the end of the stud so we don't damage it. That's loose, so we're going to get that loose. Usually you want to hit what it goes through. We're going to bang this a little bit and we have to tap that a little bit. We're going to reach in here. See if I can move it here. I might be able to see this. Maybe. Back in here. I'll get my flashlight for you. See if we can get a little more light on it for you here. Get that out of the way. Okay. So right in here, you can see that, is the end link for the sway bar. 14 millimeter nut on the top, 14 millimeter bolt head, and we're going to just zip that off of there. You need to take that off so there's enough play. Enough play in the, you can move the control arm far enough down to get that axle out. Otherwise you won't have enough play. So we're going to do that next. We'll hold the top, and we'll zip it from the bottom. Get this on there, we'll go from the bottom. Works just as well. Okay. We can just leave that there. We don't have to take it all the way apart. We can leave that in there. Now it's got enough play. It should be loose enough that we'll just take the top bushing and plate off, set it aside. And you'll see when I go to push this down after I disconnect it from the strut, it'll give me more play to get in there and get it taken care of. Okay, so 24 millimeter for these strut bolts to mount the strut to the knuckle, steering knuckle. That's next. You can't take these off by the head. They're splined. I'll show it to you when I get them out of there. You have to back the nut off and kind of drive them out of there. The heads don't really turn on them. They're splined. 24 millimeter should do it. Zip them out of here. ABS sensor, unclip it, make sure it's unhooked. So you can see on these, you see that spline that's on there, they don't turn. They just get drawn in and that's what holds them. They also have some Loctite. And these nuts are aircraft nuts. They're oblong shaped. They won't come loose in vibration. I got to get my ball joint. Actually, my tie rod end's loose. It came loose, which is good. Ball joint. I don't want to touch the ball joint. Leave that alone. Tie rod end out. I can roll this forward, push in on this as I do that. Separate them. Just tapping this. I'm not hitting it hard. So it goes through. I don't want it to pull the shaft apart, so this becomes a pain. Got enough play in here. Come on. Here we go. Now the axle's loose. Now, here's a little bit. What you can do is get in there with a pry bar. You want to get in behind the housing back here, the metal between the transmission and the metal part of the inner joint of the CV axle, and just pop it out. You can do it with a pry bar. I'm going to try a slide hammer. I'm going to attach it for it. Hopefully I can get it in behind there and just pop it right out of there, I hope. If not, I'll be using a pry bar. Let's see if I can get that in there. Maybe. Might not be able to get it in there. Right now, it's not looking like it wants to go in there. I don't have to get it in there a lot. Just gotta get it in there enough. Let me see. Let's pop that. fight with it now. Just kind of dry it. I got enough of it in there. I should be able to slide hammer that off without too much difficulty. Get out of my own way here. Come on. Everything right in the way. There it goes. Just popped it, pushed it, just like a pry bar. Pushed it sideways. Popped it right out of there. It's just a snap ring. I'll show it to you when I get it in there, out of there. That in place. And I didn't put a pan down, and it's leaking a little bit on me. But there's a snap ring on the inner stub shaft here. I'm going to check this seal. I don't want to have to deal with it. It wasn't leaking, so I don't expect it to leak. Probably would be a good idea. I don't have one here, so I'll have to deal with it if it leaks. If you're doing this to replace the seal on the inner stub shaft in the transmission, it's easy to get out. I just didn't think about it, and I don't have one here. So we'll replace this axle. Doesn't sound too good. That's not good. So I'm going to check my new shaft, compare it to the old one, make sure they're the same. I got the new one here. I'm going to slide it back in there. I have to pop it back into place here. Just be careful putting it in. You want to kind of line it up. Get the splines started on the inner. It'll slide on to a certain extent once those splines line up, which it's not doing yet. You'll feel it. And then you got to push and you got to kind of pop it in. The other thing you might want to do is the snap ring has an opening. Put the opening at the bottom. That forces most of the snap ring to be not sticking out. It might be a little easier to get that to go in that way. There it goes. So I turn that. It's like a C-clip. It looks like that. And I did was turn that opening to the bottom of the shaft. And that way most of that clip is recessed and it's less to push by. And I was able to push that right on. And then you should be able to pull. Don't pull on the boot. Pull on the actual metal housing. And it won't move. It won't come out. That means it's locked into place with that snap ring. So we're going to line our hub back up here. Got it started. Let me get a spindle nut for that. New spindle nut comes with the axle. We'll just put that on there temporarily. Keep it from coming undone. Just to hold it in place. And make sure that I have it on there correctly. I do not want to cross thread it. Come on. That's being a little difficult. Alright, that'll hold it. Now, I'm going to put these steering knuckle to strut. Now, back in, get them started. That'll hold it in place for me. Get it pushed down here, get it lined up. Get the other one here, get them both started, and we'll pull them in with the gun. And drive them in with a hammer if you want, but just be careful you don't damage the bolt heads when you do that. I'm just going to put the nuts back on them and pull them in with the air gun, just to tighten them up, just to get them close, because I want to line these scribe marks that I made. I got to line them back up so the alignment's back to about to where it should be. Okay, do that. 24 millimeter, same as when we took them off. They didn't change. Okay, check my marks, the scribe marks I have on here. Just push that off and get that started again. Well, that's giving me grief here. Alright, I'm not going to snug these up tight, I just want to get them close. Close. You'll be able to see this one a little better. It's not obstructed, just watch it pull it in. at my marks. I'm on my mark on that side. I'm on my scribe mark on both sides. So I'm just going to run them in all the way. Okay, I'll check them with a breaker bar. Just plug my ABS sensor back in so it's out of the way. Doesn't get broken. We're going to put our tie rod, turn this back in. We're going to torque that down. It's 59 foot-pounds for this car. We will torque this one. I don't like dirt on them. It's not good. I don't get a good torque reading. Okay. Torque that in place. And we're going to run this end link for the stabilizer bar. Put the bushing and plate back on that. And we got to get enough to get that nut started. There we go. There's plenty there. Get the nut out of the wrench. It's stuck in my wrench. Now it's not. We'll get that started back on there. Just a reversal of what we did. Run that back in. It's actually nice to have multiple guns. Saves you time, believe it or not. And it will hold the upper bolt or the nut with the wrench, and we'll run it back in. That's it for that. Just put it about that much when it came off. Put it about the same. Let me get a torque wrench and torque this down. Alright, torque this back in. I have to turn this a little bit. It's not that tight. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I got it close. $59 foot-pounds. Put a cotter pin in it. When I put these in, there's a long side piece that sticks out longer here. One of them, I try to put that down, and you can just grab it, pull it down, and wrap it around. It's a lot easier. Just stick that through, grab it, wrap that around that way. Grab this one, wrap it around sideways. You can do it with a pair of pliers too, a pair of cutters if you need to get a hold of it a little better. Wrap it in, good. Alright, now I've got to tighten these. 24 millimeters, as I said before. I think I've said about 50 times now. Use some more light here. Hiding it from you. A little better light action going on here. Be better, I think. There we go. So I'm just going to make sure these are tight. These are pretty tight already. This is a 2-foot breaker bar, so you don't need a lot of leverage on this to get them really tight. I don't know what the torque specs are. Let me just get them close. It's good. It's not coming off. Okay. Done with that. Alright, axle nut. I'm just going to run this in. I want to make sure that I have it not cross-threaded. And then I will torque this. After I put the rotor back on, I will torque it. Alright, let's start it right. Just run it in and get it close with the gun. 118 foot-pounds for this axle nut. I'll show you how I do that without having to have the wheel on there. Tight yet, I just snugged it up. Put a lug nut on it, hold it in place temporarily. Makes it easier to get the cowl burner on there. Okay. Brake clean, camera excuses. Make sure your rotor's clean. Turn the caliper back on here. Make sure you don't twist your flexible line. I've seen people do that. It's not good. Let's torque that spindle nut now. So the way I usually do these is get a flat-bladed screwdriver. Stick it by the caliper, stick it into the vent, one of the vent holes. So I guess I'll show you, but of course put it on this side won't do me any good. Wiggle it in there, do the same thing. Wiggle it in there, get my torque wrench ready, and then I'll hold that axle still, and I can torque it without having to put the wheel on it. 118 foot-pounds. That was right there. Moved just a little bit and it was right there. That's it. That's a pretty good guess with the gun. That's pretty much it. Not a very difficult job. Take that lug nut off, put the wheel back on obviously, and we're done. Well, that's it. Pretty easy job actually. It take anywhere from half an hour to an hour. It took me less than an hour when I was filming it. So, if you've got air tools, half an hour, 40 minutes, you can do this job. It did fix the issue. I took it out for test drive, and the vibration that was there going down the road, as well as especially when you turn to the right. And you got to remember with CV axle, when you turn to the right, you're loading the left tire and loading that axle. If you turn to the left, you're loading the right side or the passenger side, and that's where you'll feel that vibration. So you could really feel it in the car when I turned to the right, and it put a lot of load on the left tire because it's on the outside when you're making that turn. That's all gone. The ride's really nice. Pretty simple job. I hope the video helps you out. If you like the video, subscribe below. Thanks for watching.